Welcome, welcome, welcome to episode 58 of the show with no name. I'm your humble host, Nick, and today we're going to continue exploring this awesome old cemetery out here by the ocean in Puerto Rico. I like to call this episode the Puerto Rico Memorial Cemetery Part 5. Let's take a look. Luis Torres was born on May 14, 1876. He was a Puerto Rican poet, playwright, and politician. He was an advocate for the independence of Puerto Rico. He was born in Guyana Diaz, Puerto Rico. His parents were wealthy owners of a coffee plantation in Collares. In Collares, a barrio of Juana Diaz, Luis always was in contact with nature, which accounts for the love that he felt for nature and country. His poem, El Val de Collares, made the barrio one of the most well-known on the island. He would move to Spain, where he would study at the University of Barcelona. He continued his studies at the University of Granada, where he obtained both a doctorate degree and a law degree. In Spain, he published his first book of poems, which was dedicated to the woman that he would eventually marry. Her name was Carmen Rivero. When Luis returned to Puerto Rico, he found a political situation completely different than that of the one that he had left behind. Puerto Rico had been invaded by the United States during the Puerto Rico campaign of the Spanish-American War in 1898. This motivated him to join the Union Party of Puerto Rico. On February 8, 1912, he took part in the writing of a manifesto which stated that it was time for Puerto Rico to have its independence. On June 16, 1944, he passed away in San Cruz, a barrio of San Juan. He defended the idea of Puerto Rican independence until the day he died. The Puerto Rico Memorial Cemetery was established by a veterinarian. His name was Dr. Ramon Fournier Marquez in the year 1935. Back then, between the 1930s and the 1950s, it was known as the Fournier Cemetery. It was the first private cemetery that was ever established on the island of Puerto Rico, and it is still a private cemetery until this day. As usual, I was pretty much the only person here exploring this cemetery, and I was here for a couple of days, which is still pretty surprising to me. I didn't really see anybody come to look at their gravestones of their loved ones. I didn't see any tourists walk in here and check it out on their way to the grocery store or nothing. Carlos Chardon was born on September 28, 1897. He was the first Puerto Rican mycologist. In the 1920s, he was appointed as Commissioner of Agriculture and Labor. In that position, he would end up traveling all around Central and South America, aiding agricultural programs in Colombia, Venezuela, Bolivia, and the Dominican Republic. He was the head of the Puerto Rican Reconstruction Administration in the mid to late 1930s during the Great Depression. He was known as the father of mycology in Puerto Rico. He was born in Ponce, Puerto Rico. His great-grandfather immigrated to Puerto Rico in 1816, encouraged by the Royal Decree of the Graces, issued by the Spanish Crown, which was trying to attract new settlers to the island. After Mayaguez was struck with an earthquake in 1918, Carlos would move to the United States to continue his education at Cornell University in the state of New York. That earthquake would end up doing considerable damage to the city of Mayaguez, destroying hundreds of buildings and homes, both local and residential. He specialized in phytopathology and mycology, earning his master's degree in 1921. In 1922, he discovered the vector of the mosaic virus of sugarcane, which was the aphid called Aphis myatis. His findings were published in the Journal of Phytopathology, which was quite the accomplishment for his work. In 1931, he was named by Theodore Roosevelt Jr., the U.S. appointed governor at the time, as Chancellor of the University of Puerto Rico. As the first Puerto Rican to hold that position, Carlos was in a very prominent role. Some in the Puerto Rican Nationalist Party believed that he was being used by the U.S. for its own interests at the university, which led to quite a lot of political tensions during that time. He also served as Secretary of State of Puerto Rico from 1969 to 1973. He would also marry and have 4 children. He passed away on March 7, 1965. The Puerto Rican Memorial Cemetery series that I'm doing here probably could have been 8, 9, or 10 episodes because I had so much more to talk about when it comes to this cemetery. So many more headstones to go over, so many more people to talk about. But unfortunately, my documentation on this specific cemetery has come to an abrupt and short end. I had a run-in with the gravekeeper here at the cemetery, and it didn't go well. He was screaming at me and raising his fists at me, and it's completely my fault, but I couldn't understand the Spanish that he was speaking because he was speaking it so fast and I was just learning. But the overall attitude that he gave me, I got the point that it was time to leave. He threatened to call the cops, and I told him, hey, please don't call the cops, man. I'm leaving right now. And I left the cemetery. Upon further reflection, I believe that because the cemetery is technically a private cemetery, that I wasn't really supposed to be in here at all, as it turns out. But I still believe it to be quite an unfortunate series of events because I still had a lot of historical work to do on this cemetery here. And that's something I'm still learning to navigate as I continue to travel to new places to document the cemeteries in those areas and the history of the people and the culture and so on and so forth. That dealing with death, it's just a very touchy subject, because in my mind, what I'm doing right now is paying honor and respect to the people and the culture and the history of the area that I'm studying, but not everybody's going to see it that way. While I interpret what I'm doing as paying my respects, somebody else can see it as a very disrespectful thing, and I understand that. I understand that further confrontations like that are coming for me, and that I can possibly even be attacked someday while doing this work that I'm doing now. But I don't want to stop. It's something I'm very passionate about. I'd rather be here in the cemetery studying the history and the culture of these awesome people here on this island than out on some beach having a margarita. But that's just me. To all the people on the island of Puerto Rico, it is a curiosity and an interest in your people and culture that has led me here. And I hope you don't take what I'm doing as disrespect. I hope you enjoy the rest of the videos of this awesome cemetery, the Puerto Rico Memorial Cemetery, out here by the ocean in Puerto Rico. This is part 5. Thank you.